Sorry about all our technical difficulties and gremlins today. I am Noelle, and on camera today I've got the wildebeest. Hello, VM, and we have an amazing sighting for you. Just on our right-hand side, we've got two beautiful mating lions who are hopefully just about to get up. And then across the way, they're actually just popping up now. We've got elephants who are busy coming away from the water. It took them about a half an hour to get here. The rest of the Nkahuma Pride we can't really see from where we are, but the magic is all here with these two. And we've been waiting and waiting and waiting. He's now nudging her and saying, "But I love you, please." And as he's saying, I love you, please, I think we're going to focus on these guys, but I'm going to narrate for you what's happening in the background. So these two are going to go at it just now. The elephants are coming around the northern side of the dam. If they get close to the rest of the Nkahumas we will move over there so you can see. But I don't want you to miss the magic. Lions mate for about 4 to 5 days, and they do it every 15 to 20 minutes. But because of the heat and because of the elephants here, these two have now gone about 30 to 45 minutes. So because the elephants are moving off a little bit, possibly coming around to the rest of the pride, they are now going to get busy. And it's not something you get to see all the time, especially for us, because our lions spend so much time on other properties, and we don't get to see the Nkahumas as much as we would all like. That this is going to be a rare and wonderful occurrence. Okay, now something that's interesting about big cats with the females is the females are the ones to initiate. So here she goes. She's like, "Look at me, look how pretty I am. Here we are." Don't go behind the bush, guys, please. Please come onto the damn wall like you did last time. I'm begging you. If they go behind the bush, I'll move. Don't worry. There's a little stretch. She's waving her lady parts in his face. And here we are. Oh. And we're done. That's it. She'll roll onto her back just now and try and help the whole process around. Absolutely fantastic. All right, my friend Steve is on foot with an elephant bull. So in the next 15 or 20 minutes, they'll do it again. Hopefully we'll be able to show you again. But let's head on over to Steve so he can say hello and show you his elephant.
Good afternoon and welcome. We are on foot with two of nature's largest animals. African elephant. There are two bulls, folks, just here. My name is Steve Falconbridge, and I'm joined by Seb on the camera. We have Herbie just standing behind me here, making sure that we are safe. These two bulls came towards us. We're busy mud wallowing. We watched them for a little bit. We've just moved a little bit around them. Wind is perfect. Got a little bit of indication that we're here. Here's the second one. But they are quite relaxed, these bulls. There we go. Did you see that foot? They know that we're here. They're not very old bulls, but it's wonderful to be on foot with these big giants. See, he's starting to feed again. His foot is scraping the floor, picking up dust. They've just been wallowing, so now they pick up the fine dust, which they then throw on their wet skin. Marvelous to watch their normal behavior. If they were not happy or relaxed, they would not be behaving like this. They do not behave normally if they're upset. And you don't really get bulls upset. I'm sitting, or I'm quite low down, which is basically showing them that I'm not being a threat. If I was standing up, it's a different posture, different body language. Elephants have evolved with man. They've spent a lot of time on this continent with upright standing men. And if I am standing up with my stick, I look a lot more threatening than if I'm crouched quite low down. This is marvelous. I don't know if you can see his eyes, Seb. You go right up on the eye. The eyes are very soft. It's a very good indicator of elephant behavior. When you look at the eye is very soft. They are very relaxed. And that tail as well, you can see it swinging behind. Very swingy, very casual. And he's feeding. Okay, folks, well, we're going to stay with these two bulls for a while. I'm going to go across to my friend Scott's. I believe he's managed to find Thandi.
Yes, we certainly have, with a little bit of help from Rexon. You got a quick glimpse of the cub there. My name's Scott. I'm teamed up with Dave on camera, and we've hit the jackpot. We've got this leopardess and her tiny little cub just a few meters away from us here, and it looks like the cub is starting to get into a bit of a playful mood. It's been fairly docile for the last hour that we've been sitting here, but now you can see Mom's tail flicking from side to side, and the young cub is clearly quite intrigued by that little toy that it can play with. It is a very hot afternoon, but they found themselves a nice shady spot. And isn't this cool? Now, they were located this morning, like I said, by Rexon, one of the guides who works in this area. And what's interesting is that they worked out that she managed to kill a baby Nyala probably about, I would say, at least half a mile away from here. And she dragged it all the way back somewhere into this area so that both her and that young cub can nibble on it as and when they please. And I'm guessing that is something that is likely to happen a little bit later on when things cool down. Mom's belly is quite full. We have seen her get up and move once or twice, and she looks like she's fed on a decent portion of the Nyala. Oh, look at how cute that is. What a good view. Perfect light twinkling on its lights, on its eyes rather. And James Richards, you've just mentioned that Thandi and cub is the best kind of cat-a-day treat you could ever hope for. And I agree. This is going to be a wonderful, wonderful evening. Earlier on, the little cub almost kind of stalked up towards us, not very close, and didn't leave Mom far away from her, but she definitely was looking at us, intrigued by us, interested by us. And it would be interesting to know how many hours of this little cub's life it already has been exposed to humans and vehicles. It is essential for leopards to have this exposure to us, otherwise they will merely be ghosts of the African wilderness. They can be very, very shy, elusive, and secretive. Looks like the cub's popping back into a similar spot where you had it earlier, Darv. There we go. Oh, it's just below there. Looks like it's going for Mom's tail again. And this is such a great spot where it was lying up earlier, because a little bit of sunlight twinkles through there. Magic. I still haven't seen this young cub feed on anything, so I'm looking forward to seeing her chewing on some meat for the first time. Cubs can often be very comical when they do start feeding on kills that their mothers make, because they sometimes kind of pretend the killer's alive and have this ferocious attack on a small portion of the carcass, which can be hugely entertaining. Is this one going to now attack the tree? It looks like it. Like most young animals, they do like chewing on things. Hyena cubs are probably the worst, though. They chew on just about every little stump and stick and piece of vegetation in and around their den, but leopards a little bit less so. Okay, well, Steve did a good job in finding those Ellies on foot, and that's really exciting stuff. So why don't you guys go and see what's happening over there?
Thanks very much for the compliment, but we were tracking elephants that had all gone the completely opposite way. But Herbie's idea and my idea was just to come and check the pan areas. And there we go, we just stumbled across them. We were actually standing in the shade for a moment when they just materialized out of nowhere, silent as can be. All you can really see now is pillars, the legs. There's 3 individuals now that we can see, but it always amazes me how well they just blend in with the background. And if you don't know what to look for, you won't see them. So it's something I always ask my guests on safari is to don't look at the tree, look through the gaps in the tree. Now you can see where Seb is showing you on the camera. You're not looking at the bushes, you're looking through them to see behind. And that's where you see animals. You look for that little swish of the tail. That is all you can see sometimes of an elephant. And because the tail is swishing, we know they're quite relaxed. They know we're here. But there's no need for any concern. Breeding herds of elephants you need to be worried about, just with regards to babies. Philip asks, what is my favorite action of an elephant? If any of you were on safari with me the other day, we had a baby elephant sort of sliding down the hill. I've seen elephants slide a few times, and that was for me the funniest. But often when elephants get to a waterhole or a sandbank, they do what that baby did the other day, but I've never seen one so dramatic as that before. And it was marvelous to see. I love watching elephants climb up banks or go down them, because they don't really know how to bend their legs very well. So they end up sort of going on their knees, and often their back legs come behind them, like if you've ever seen a dog rubbing its bottom on the floor when it's got worms. It looks quite similar to that, and it's always so much fun to watch. These three beautiful elephants. Now you probably can't see the size of them, but they are, at least one of them is average size. The other two are quite large, and they are definitely bulls. So folks, we're going to stay with these guys for just a little bit longer. I believe there's lots of rain up in the Mara, and the guys are going to get a little bit wet. We would love some rain, Brent, so please, if you could send some down to us. And while we're here with the Ellies, we're going to go up to Brent with his lions.
Welcome back, everyone, and we've got ourselves into a new spot here. We were thinking of just repositioning again. We're trying to get a spot where we can see the young cub playing with mom's tail, but sadly it is a little bit thick here, so let's just stay put for a second and see what the cub does. It kind of likes to do these little circuits. I've noticed it kind of gets a circuit in its train of thoughts, and then it just kind of keeps doing that. David, straight in front of us now on the right hand side of this log, it may pop down, that big log. A bit more left. Yeah, it may just pop down. You can see its shadow from where it's moving there. If you keep it, yeah, there we go. Here it comes. Looked like it almost came short there, but it managed to recover. Okay, it seems like it's now starting its path back up towards Mom, so we'll keep an eye out for her on that pathway. Well done, Davy, doing a great job tracking an invisible little cub through the undergrowth there. Eloise, you would like to know if there have been any records of black leopards here in South Africa, and yes, there certainly have. Quite a few in the Waterberg, I'm told. None that I've heard of in the Sabi Sands or Greater Kruger National Park, but further north of where we are here, oh, it looked like it fell down there, towards the Waterberg. It looks like there's some have been recorded up there. I think some have been recorded also kind of along the South African Botswana border. Quite a few up in Kenya also recorded. So it is one animal that I would die to actually see. I've been lucky enough to see melanistic serval, which is a fairly leopard-like cat that is pitch black. Okay, I can't resist this. We need to try and move, because these moments when she tries to catch onto Mom's tail is absolutely golden. So let's try and get you into better spots. And while we do that, we will send you back up to the Mara with Brent.
Well, here we go. A few of the Olololo members. Sorry about that. For some reason we lost my audio a bit earlier. But there we go. looking lovely and lazy. They survived the first storm. Unfortunately, for us though, there is another storm on the way, so we're not going to roll up our covers just yet to be caught with our skirts down, so to speak. Our rain skirts, those are, for those who have rude minds. But the rest of the pride are lying where we can't see them, but they're in the long grass close by. There we go. Hello, little one. Now, there are a lot of little boys in this pride, about 9 if I remember correctly. And quite a few of them are still under 6 months, so still suckling. John is wondering who does the kicking out of maturing males from the pride. Now, it will be a combination of the males and females, but normally it is led by the dominant males. So, but sometimes the females will have enough of those males as well and start pushing them out. Now, they look like they've had a good meal last night. They've been coming quite close to our camp almost every night and hunting for zebra. Now, as you know, Craig and I have been the areas above and outside of the park, and there are a lot of zebra, giraffe, impala, topi, all in those areas. And in these long grass areas, there's not much food, so they are pushing up onto that escarpment from time to time when they are in need of dinner. Well, we're going to stay a little bit longer here with these lions, see if they get up to anything. While we do that, let's go back to the exquisite Thandi and her bundle of joy with my good friend Scotty D, the bearded wonder.
Well, thanks, Brent, and I hope we are still with the exquisite Thandi, as Brent said, and we've managed to get a nice clear visual of that tail of hers. And what I'm hoping for are some magical moments. What happened here? That's interesting. Now we're very close by, so that's why I'm whispering. And why did Mom all of a sudden kind of lash out at the cub? What did you do wrong? That was absolutely bizarre. I'm sure it took all of you by as much of a surprise as it took me. She was kind of just chilling out, and all of a sudden she lurched towards the cub. Why? I'm not entirely certain. What happened, Thandi? I don't think the cub knows what it did wrong either. You can see it's just kind of like lingering around going, Mom, what happened? So it is Murphy's Law that as we did reposition to get the perfect shot of her tail, nothing happened. But we're not going to be going anywhere. Now, if any of you are joining for the first time, it would be wonderful if you let us know who you are. And secondly, it's important that we let you know that this leopardess does snarl from time to time at us. She has done so, and so has her sister, even when they don't have cubs. They're kind of just sometimes on a bit of a grumpy mood, you could say. But we do need to kind of take heed of her warnings and her snarls, because they are kind of her way of telling us how she's feeling. So you would have noticed there was a very slight kind of grimace there, but nothing too serious. So we'll just kind of keep track of that. Now, I'm just going to move forward a little bit because she's perched herself on a log, and we are possibly going to have one of the most beautiful views of a leopard you could ever hope for. This is going to be mind-bogglingly beautiful, everyone. Please take lots of screenshots. How awesome is this? No, Thandi. Stop being snarly. Hello, young Aiden, who's just 6 years old. Very, very happy to have you on safari with us, and you would like to know, what does this little baby leopard drink? Is it just milk? And no, it's not just milk. It will drink water as well. We've had some of its tiny little paw prints along some of the water holes, and it will also like to drink blood. When its mother brings it a nice fresh kill, it will also drink the blood from the kill. So in the next few weeks and months, it's going to be eating a little bit more meat. For the last two months or so that it's been alive, it's mainly been drinking milk and water. But as it gets older, from about 3 months old, it will like to start eating little bits of meat. I was wondering what Mom's milk tastes like, Aiden, a little bit earlier. Of course, not all milk tastes like tasty cow's milk, so I was wondering what this little cub's milk tastes like. Thandi, why are you being all snarly? Now, something to bear in mind as well is that when the cub gets very playful and it is playing with her tail, sometimes Mom takes out her frustrations on us. Let me move forward a smidgen, because the cub's kind of just obscured by a few little bushes there. And while we work out what to do here, we're going to send you all the way back up to the Mara, not to Brent this time, but to Jamie, who's got some impalas.
Oh, we survived. We survived, but we only just survived. No, that's a bit melodramatic. We got a little damp, and at one point the rain felt more like hail. It was hitting us sideways, and the wind was blowing up dust storms. It was actually quite scary. The whole car was rocking. I don't think it would be possible for us to blow over. I wouldn't have thought. We're a very heavy vehicle, but we've got these high roofs. I don't know. Probably unlikely. Anyway, it's got to that time of the day where the animals from the plains start making their way back up the escarpment, and most of them prefer to spend a bit of time a bit further up at night. And the reason that I think that they do that is, first of all, it's more sheltered. There's plenty of cover, but at the same time they've also got the short grass to spot a potential predator. Although a night like tonight's going to be, it'll be very hard for these impala and zebra to spot the hunting Olololo pride if they decide to come in this direction. It's going to be dark, it's going to be windy, I can't believe the speed at which that storm hit us and then was gone again. It was like being put through a washing machine and then spat out the other side. That's not how washing machines work, I know this, but that's the image that I had in my head. So as the Mara team shivers in the cold and slightly damp, let's go back across to Steve, who I'm not sure is not shivering from fear, even though he is on foot with an elephant.
Thanks, Jamie. Yes, indeed, we are still watching these two bulls. I thought it was 3 for a moment, but it seems that we were mistaken. There's only 2. But it amazes me how they feed. They are so selective in their trunk. Their trunk will come in, and it's feeding on the most delicate of grass vegetation. It's pushing branches out the way, and it's being very selective. It's not feeding on many leaves or branches at the moment, mainly on the grass, but especially where branches have been pushed down on the ground. It's been quite a nice seed bed, nice grasses growing in that sort of microclimate that elephants have actually created. They're now feeding on the grass that has grown from their gardening techniques. I think it's quite incredible. You can just hear them munching. I don't know if you can pick it up on the mic. But we're only about 35 yards away from these two. Wind is still perfect in our favor. Just slowly moving away from us now. I'm pretty sure they're nowhere here. But they're quite content to be feeding and doing their thing. You can't even see them anymore. Just disappearing into the vegetation there. And on that note, we're going to carry on our merry way. So we're going to leave these two big elephant bulls. We're going to continue on our exploration, and on the note, we're going up to Noel with the mating lions.
Alright, now he's trying very hard again to propagate his gene pool further into generations, and she is not being extremely receptive. So he's woken up a bit, and then he's gone over and groomed her. She growled at him, but it means that she knows that he's ready. But again, female lions and female leopard are the ones that decide when it's time. So she's hopefully going to start moving just now. The interactions in between the mating periods are interesting. It's very painful for her to mate. His male parts are barbed so that it's just him, and so she's wants to get pregnant, but it's a difficult one for her. So Sharon, you're wondering which lioness this is. Sharon, I believe this is the lioness that you all call Amber Eyes. And she's one of the older females, as far as I understand, in the Nkuhuma pride. She's gonna make him wait now. They're teasing us, ever so slightly. Now, most of the time, not all of the time, but most of the time, matings are successful. So we should then, in about 3 months, see her dropping wherever she decides to drop, and then in another 3 months, start seeing her take those cubs out and about. So in the next 6 months, we should start seeing tiny little cubs wandering around with the pride. Similar in size, a little bit smaller, but similar in size to that small one we had with this lioness, and then the mother of the small one on the zebra kill the other day on quarantine, although I believe that little one's between 3 and 4 months. She's really going to make him wait. It's interesting, usually during this time of mating, so this mating just started yesterday. So at the beginning, there's usually shorter sequences, about 15 to 20 minutes. But this pair has done more of sort of 30-minute breaks. So again, we've got statistics that we read about and facts that we learn, but everything is variable within each different scenario with every single different individual. Scarlett, interesting question. You'd like to know how many times a year a lioness mates. Scarlett, most of the time she'll get pregnant. So if she gets pregnant now, then that's it for the next 2 years. She'll get pregnant. She'll be pregnant for about 3 months. She'll give birth. And if the cubs survive, and then when those cubs are about 2 years old, sometimes just under 2 years or sometimes just over 2 years, so when they're sub-adults, she'll go back into estrus and she'll start mating again for her next litter. If for some reason this doesn't take, then she'll go into estrus again next month. Or if the cubs were to die, she'd immediately go back into estrus and then the mating process would start again. Okay, well, they gave us a false alarm. Paula, they do indeed. Paula, you're asking if all male cat species have barbed male members, and that's true. It's true also of the African wild dog, and that's one of the reasons why at the end of a lot of the mating sessions there's a bit of aggression. So the last mating sequence we saw, she just kind of growled a little and sort of ripped his face, and he stands there sheepishly like, "I'm so sorry, I'm not quite sure what, and then he lies down very gingerly and then looks at her like, "I love you, please don't hurt me." Happens with, leopards are a bit more vicious with mating as well. And then cheetah's a whole other story. Cheetah will do similar things to lion and leopard, but also with the male coalitions, the males don't always wait for the female to say it's okay. They sometimes, I'm going to put this as delicately as I possibly can, they sometimes just go ahead anyway. Sorry, I don't really know how to put that without being too explicit. Oh, she's opening her legs. She's cooling herself down a little bit. If she starts rolling around and yawning, then she's going to get up, and then he'll know. Okay, so the flies were bothering her now, and because the flies were bothering her in a spot that is very tender and very sore, she is most likely initiate again. So I think let's stay with us for a minute or two longer if everyone doesn't mind. There's a half yawn there. Remember, when lions or leopards start to get moving, they yawn, they stretch, they get up, they lie down, and then they do that several times and carry on. This scenario is a little bit different because she's going to do a little bit of grooming, a little bit of scratching, a little bit of yawning, a little bit of stretching, and then go into the mating again. So another interesting thing that happens during the mating period is they don't usually hunt. And one of the reasons why I'm bringing this up now is because the rest of the pride's not too far off, and the rest of the pride, I believe, ate something last night, something little, but if they get a chance to hunt, it might interrupt this mating bit. I've seen that happen from time to time. It's not the norm, but I have seen it happen from time to time. There she goes. Look at me, I'm so pretty. And he knows there, his head is up, and he's like, yes, I love you. Now we'll see if she's receptive. She might kick him with her foot. She's been doing that quite a bit. She's going to make him wait. Ooh, you see that? She's like, I'm not ready. I'll tell you when. And now she's saying, look at me, look how pretty I am. It's very mixed messages. It's very confusing for this male. He's not the dominant in this situation at all. He has to be very submissive and caring and patient. You see that? And if he keeps pushing her before she's the one that fully initiates, this is what's going to keep happening. Child of the universe, really interesting question. You're asking if the cubs. So the sighting that we had, I think it was in December, before we did TV shows, so early December. We had a sighting with the Nkuhumas where the juveniles were busy playing with a tortoise and ended up eating the tortoise. At that sighting, we had the female with the one cub that we saw the other day. She was lactating, and another female was lactating. To be honest with you, I can't remember if it was Amber Eyes or if it's that other really beautiful female, that light-colored female that is just absolutely stunningly gorgeous. Not that Amber Eyes isn't gorgeous, but I'm in love with that other female. So I can't give you a 100% answer on that, but I do know that two of the females from the Nkuhumas did drop, and I do know that only one of them has little cubs left. So that's what I can answer for you. Kirsch was saying in my ear she thinks it might have been Amber Eyes, but again, not 100% correct on that. And Amber Eyes being the older female that she is, she's really making this male work for it. I feel really bad. Another reason for that could be that she is in estrus, but she's just at the very beginning, and so she's kind of letting it happen, but she needs a little bit more time. So I think while we're waiting, let's head back to Scott, who's got Thandi, and we'll hang out with him, and I'll let Kirst know if we get any more action this side so you all can come back and join us.
Yes, we are still sitting here having a wonderful time with Thandi. Hoping that those lions are going to mate for you guys. They certainly weren't very active this morning with regards to mating, so who knows whether they are possibly, I guess they would have only probably started, or maybe kind of leading up to starting fairly soon, because that male wasn't around yesterday when we saw the rest of the pride. Thandi's trying to snooze here on this log, but she is having a tricky time because the cub is attacking her tail almost permanently. It's probably its favorite toy. Lily, who's just 7 years old, would like to know, why do leopards have these spots? And it's to help them blend in with the bushes around them so that they can sneak up and catch antelope like impala for their food. So it just helps them disappear into all the bushes If they were all one color, it would be a little bit easier to spot them. It's definitely easier to spot lions than it is to spot leopards. And isn't it the most beautiful, beautiful coat? We're very, very lucky with this sighting to have her lying out in the open here with a little bit of dappled sunlight coming through. Is an incredibly beautiful scene. And as it cools down, this cub is just becoming more and more playful. So we are in for a treat this afternoon. Also, what I'm hoping we're going to get to see, or at least what I'm going to get to see is, well, we're all going to see, but me for the first time, is this young cub chewing on some meat. Steve was the first one of us to share that with some of you guys. And this little cub was nibbling on a warthog a few days ago. But now Mom has brought back a baby Nyala that she caught, I'm guessing sometime late last night or early this morning. And she dragged it quite some distance back to the cub. And we need to just kind of remind ourselves how lucky we are that she is still using these kind of set den sites. Because in the next few weeks, this little cub is going to start moving with her just about wherever she goes. She's not going to necessarily move kills back to the cub, but rather move the cub to the kills. It expends less energy that way. Liquid Core, you'd like to know, what do most cub deaths get caused by? Oh, hello. It all depends, really. A lot will depend on where in the world the leopards are, and where in Africa the leopards are, because there's different densities of threats to the cubs. For example, lion and hyena. And also, importantly, other leopards will also kill leopard cubs. Male leopards who did not father a cub will kill it in order to free up the mother of her responsibilities, and thus allow the new male to mate with her. So that does happen quite often. But sadly, I mean, we simply can't stay with them for long enough to know how a lot of these deaths are caused. A lot of it's just kind of guesswork, and sometimes we can't even hazard a guess as to how or why the animal may have died. In the case of this individual, I think it's fair to say that it's unlikely that she only gave birth to one little cub, yet we've only ever seen one little cub. So what happened to the other 1 or 2 cubs that may have been born, we will never know. We were discussing this very same topic a little bit earlier. There's quite a few Indias that live in leopard. There's quite a few leopard that live in India. And in, I guess, India, in certain parts where these leopards live, there's not too many other threats or enemies. They do live in and around the kind of farmlands. And I guess most other predators have moved out, but the leopards are tolerated. And because they're the only kind of predator around, they don't have hyena up in India. I guess other predators or threats would be areas where tigers overlap with leopards. But because you get these leopards living in areas where there's not many other threats other than leopards themselves, I think there's quite a booming population of them there. And it also means that you do get very large litters. I've just seen a friend of mine's been taking a photographic safari up in India, and he had a photograph with 1 leopardess and 3 cubs. And the 3 cubs are all quite large, I'd say about 4 or 5 months old at least. So probably twice the age of this little cub that we're viewing here. And I wonder how often that happens there in India. I'm guessing quite a lot. Whereas here in Africa, it's incredibly rare to ever see a leopardess with more than 2 cubs. It does happen, but very, very seldomly. Alrighty then, well, we're gonna stay put here. Like I said a little bit earlier, there is a kill somewhere here, and I am hoping that Thandi is going to lead us to wherever it is, hopefully climb up a tree for us and start snacking on it. And while we wait for her to do that, we'll send you back to Noelle with her sleepy lions.
They're a little bit sleepy, Scott, that's for sure, but there's a little bit of a stretch and a little bit of a yawn, and he hasn't tried to touch her since since you all left us and went to go have a look at Thandi. So she's now hopefully going to initiate the whole process. And if he's patient enough and doesn't upset her, we'll get hopefully a good view. We've had to move just a little bit. We've got another vehicle that has joined us, so I'm hoping that they don't move too much, and then we're going to get an unspoiled view of the proceedings that are going to happen shortly. Philip, you're saying that Amber Eyes has not raised a cub to adulthood yet. Thank you so much, Philip, for that information. That's good to know. It's a nice background story for everybody, including any of our new viewers that are out there that haven't been watching as many as some of our older viewers. All right, so she's had a little scratch, a little groom, a little yawn. She's rubbing herself a little bit on the soil there. And he's grooming, but also keeping an eye on her. There she's up. And there's a little bit of a stretch, that typical cat stretch. All right. I'm just going to duck my head a little bit. Hopefully they're going to come right in front of us here. I think they are. And hopefully we're going to get a beautiful view just now. And here we go. Oh, fantastic. And we're finished. Beautiful. A little bit of a different angle for us. We got a nice Wildenaar down from the bottom side of the dam wall, from the back side. So that was good. I'm just going to lift my head and try not to be in the way too much. We also got some really great audio there. Some sounds, I should say. And again, she didn't turn around and smack him, but you could see that she was uncomfortable. And then part of that biting on the neck has to do is just sort of keep her in place just for the last little bit so that everything can be finished. And then she lays on her back so that gravity can do all the work. And then he's standing. Sometimes when they stand like this, sometimes they'll roar a little bit. Sometimes they do a little bit of urine spraying just to mark territory. She's annoyed with him now. Paula, good question you're asking. Some females just choose not to be mothers. So Paula, the best way I can answer that question is you get good mothers and you get bad mothers. So their mating instincts are always going to be there, so they'll always mate. But I've known a couple of females when their cubs are sort of 3 months old, 2 to 3 months old, they just kind of leave them. That's not all mothers, but yeah, it does happen. So that, I guess, would be a choice. But also, I mean, it depends on the individual, on the personality, but I also think it depends quite a bit on what are the natural things happening. You know, she can't, if there's a big drought and she can't hunt enough, or if she's in an area where there's a lot of migratory species and it's the wrong time of the year and there's not any larger game that's there for them, or game that's easily accessible, she might dry up with milk and then she doesn't really have a choice. There's so many different scenarios that can happen there. That's a nice shot of the Birmingham male there. Beautiful. We're getting some good screenshots today, everybody. And our light has calmed down a bit. Earlier the light was very harsh. Now we're starting to go into that golden light. Oh, Vildi. Nice close-up. And it's cooled down quite a bit, which means that they'll start hopefully mating a little bit more. All right, Steve is wandering around on his own 2 feet, so I think let's head on over to him and see what he wants to show us.
We are walking through the Milwati. We actually found some tracks of what potentially was Thandi, Herbie believes, and the drag mark. And we're quite far away from where Scott has her now. And Herbie's quite certain that she killed something here, has dragged it all the way there. To me, that is just remarkable behavior. But just before, folks, we were looking at the elephants and they were busy feeding. I was talking about how branches that are broken down cause grasses to grow. And if you look around at the base here, there's hardly any grasses, but then underneath this branch, the grasses are quite tall and quite thick. And that is damaged by elephants, has led to the seedbed growing and habitat. Perfect for spur fowls, small birds, for nesting, snakes, all sorts of things. And the elephants are so selective. They're in with their trunk and their tusks, and they lift these branches up, and they grab this wonderful green grass that's growing under there. And what we often find in these shaded areas is that very, very palatable buffalo grass growing in there. And I just thought I'd mention that because there's so much of it around, so many small ecosystems. But we are just on a nice stroll, walking through the riverbed. Wonderful tracks and such a lovely breeze on our backs at the moment as we just love this wilderness. Those elephant bulls are really quite special. We spent quite a bit of time with them, which is one of my favorite things to do on foot. Spend some time with ellie bulls, just watching them, doing their behavior, not influencing them in any way. Liquid Core would like to know what kind of leaves elephants eat. Elephants eat grass. They'll eat leaves off of this tree, which is a guarri. They eat pretty much any leaves, actually. It all depends on the time of year and the season. A lot of the branches that we find out here in the summer months have got leaves, and the ones with thorns, actually, this is a very good example right over here. Looks like a fallen over river thorn. Elephants absolutely love these guys. Any form of acacia. Can you imagine? Look at those thorns there. I dare to even put my hand near it. But those thorns, the elephant will just stick this entire branch in its mouth and eat the leaves, the bark, the thorns, everything. So they are extremely selective, but they are so bulk in their selection that they feed on so much. But you'll often find elephants moving big branches out the way, as I mentioned before, to feed on grasses. For example, these ones that are growing in the shade of this fallen over tree. So it's a beautiful little ecosystem that's formed here, just in and around where this tree's fallen over. So they really will select. They often go for the best leaves they possibly can, but because they feed on bulk, they feed on whatever they can get. In the winter months, there's not as many leaves, so they feed more on bark. But now, this time of year, they're feeding almost primarily on grass. That's purely because there's such a huge abundance of it after our rains. We should have some more rain because we need some more grass. Yes, this is wonderful out here in the Milwati. So from our drainage line and tracks of leopards, we're going to go back to Scotty D, who I believe is with the culprit, Thandi.
Yes, we certainly are just sitting here enjoying our magical afternoon with Thandi. Not much has changed. She's been on this log for about half an hour, I would guess, by now. I'm not sure where oh, here comes the cub from behind there. It temporarily disappeared. It's been fixated on her tail, so I'm guessing that's where she's heading back to. She certainly is a little bit of a rebel, this girl, and I cannot wait to see all the magical moments that we get to spend with her as she grows up. We've really been spoilt over the last week or so. Other than yesterday, I think just about every day for a week we've been viewing her, which is seriously a good record to keep up, try and keep up. I think Mom definitely is, entertaining the thought of playtime by wiggling her tail from side to side, giving the cub something to chase after. That was quite cute. She almost kind of stretched out to try and catch the falling cub there. The cub had fallen down the same way a couple more times earlier, and she didn't kind of reach down to try and catch it like she did there, but that tumble that the cub just had now was probably the most impressive that we've seen all afternoon. Interesting stuff. Now, where is Mom going to go? Is she going to lead us to the kill? Kruger, you'd like to know if female leopards will kill other female leopards' cubs. I think there definitely is a possibility of that happening. I've never personally seen or heard of it happening, but leopardess are incredibly ferocious when it comes to their territories, and they defend their territory against other female leopards. So if in fact they do come across cubs on their territory or while they're sneaking around, they could well kill them. But I actually haven't heard of any confirmed cases of that, but I'm fairly confident it will in fact happen. Just not as often as males would be the culprits. Males have got a bigger and kind of more important reason to kill off cubs than a leopardess would, to ensure that only the strongest, best genes make it through. Now, one catch of where we positioned ourselves now is that we will have to do a bit of a loop around to get some views of them now and what they get up to now. So let's just wait a second. Looks like the cub may come into... No. Looked like the cub was maybe going to pop into an opening. I'm guessing that Mom is possibly thinking about going and retrieving this baby Inyala kill that she stashed somewhere in this area. We're not too sure exactly where, but I'm confident there is some meat in the vicinity, and I'm guessing she is either just... No, it looks like she's just repositioning in another spot there. So let's head back on, up around onto the other side, and while we loop back to get you a better view, we shall send you to Noel and the lions.
Yes, we're having a really good catter day, I believe it is what all of you call it. So we've got the Feline Friday, and then we have Saturday, which is catter day. So lots of lions up in the Mara. And then after all of our little gremlins left us, thank goodness, we've got Thandi and Cub and the wonderful mating lions you see in front of us, who are busy taking a little bit of a rest. Our elephant herd managed to come down and get a drink, and then they've moved off without any interaction between them and the lions. The elephant herd that was here had a teeny tiny baby that they were trying to hide and keep away. Now Vildy's just zooming in on this lioness's ear. We noticed the other day when they were at the zebra kill that she had that cut. Tula Ann, who is 5 years old. Tula Ann, it's so good to hear you. I haven't heard from you in a while. I'm glad you're watching the show. Tula Ann, growling is a type of talking. It's really similar. If you're doing something that's very naughty or maybe annoying, or maybe the person you're talking to is just in a bad mood and they turn around and they kind of speak to you in harsh human words, that's the similar type of thing that's happening with a lion with a growl. It's basically like a, I'm annoyed with you now, blah, and just sort of not being as kind as they could possibly be. Now, lions live in prides, as you know, Tula Ann, in groups together, and so the females and the males do spend a lot of time showing each other how much they do care about each other and love each other. But in scenarios like this, when this female is so uncomfortable, she's not necessarily going to be as loving. She's going to be a bit more stern and a little bit angry, and that's where the growling talking comes from. Tula Ann, I'm wondering how your photo collection is going over your kitty's bowl, the feed bowl or the water bowl. I know that you make your own drawings and you also print out a lot of screenshots, and then we send you some photos from time to time and you put them over your kitty's bowl. So I'd be interested to know how your collection is going that side. I'm sure it's growing every day. Oh, there's a really beautiful breeze that's coming through, and because today was very warm, the soil has that nice summer smell to it. Ravi, you're saying Catter Day has been very successful. We're just missing the cheetah. Very true, we are just missing the cheetah, but you never know. That male cheetah might pop up around Twin Dams again if we get lucky. I haven't heard any updates regarding that injured male cheetah that Tristan saw several days ago, but I have been keeping my ear to the ground. I also don't have any further updates on Mvula, And I haven't heard anything on Tingana recently. I do have Rexon next to me, so I'm going to give him a shout just now and see if he can fill me in on anything that I might have missed over the past couple of days so that I can let all of you know as well. So I think in the next sort of 10 minutes, these lions are going to go at it again. And he's trying very hard to pretend he's taking a nap. He is having a small nap, but he's very aware of every twitch and sneeze and movement that she does. And part of that has to do with the fact that he doesn't want her to go anywhere else besides right by him, because he's very afraid that someone else's genetic material might carry on the line instead of his. That's also why his brothers are not here. The brothers take turns. Also avoids fighting. And Vildy's getting some really nice close-ups of that fur. It looks like it's very soft, but it's actually not. It's quite coarse and quite thick, and they smell. They smell like lions. There's a man that does lion research on the desert lions in Namibia, and when he does a little bit of DNA sampling and things like that, and so when he's busy doing those samples, the lions are not out completely, but they're immobile during that period, and he smells their feet, and he says each lion has a smell to their foot. So Dale, on an afternoon like this, I really love when it gets a little bit cooler, when the potato bush starts coming through, and also the wild jasmine. I love those smells. When I'm walking like what Steve is doing now, there's smells that get me excited. That butter popcorn smell from leopard scent marking gets me excited. The very harsh urine smell from a lion scent marking also gets me excited, because it means that it's very fresh for the most part, and we're hopefully going to find them on foot. And then, I think that's about it. From my research days, I was up close and personal with quite a lot of animals. Sorry for the sound of that vehicle. We've got one that's just moving off. And one of the smells that I don't like actually comes from my favorite predator, which is an African wild dog. They're really smelly. But one of the smells that I was really surprised I liked that as much as I did was a rhino. If you've ever seen Jurassic Park, that whole scene where the lady lies on the Triceratops to listen to it breathe, I was part of a conservation effort with a white rhino, and we were able to help with the ear notching as well as some DNA sampling, and I got to touch this beautiful animal as it was breathing and have my own little Jurassic Park moment. And rhinos have a really distinctive smell to their coat. It almost reminds me of horse stables a little bit. I grew up riding horses, and so it's very fond memories with that, but that has to be a particularly good smell. That's that really up close and personal smell of a rhino. And lightning in the distance. Too many smells. Sorry, everyone. All right, so Steve has a smell that might be a good smell for Steve, or it might be a little bit stinky. Let's head on over to him and see what it is.
Thank you, Noel. From the largest carnivores on the African continent to the smallest, we have found a dwarf mongoose latrine. Now, you might be asking me, why is that interesting? And I think dwarf mongoose or mongoose or mongooses, I have never understood which is the correct term there. I'm sure James will inform me later. But this little gang of mongoose, they like to live in burrows in the ground. They move. There's quite a number of burrows around that they'll live in. But something that's quite interesting, and I've noticed this quite a few times, I wonder if any of the other guides have noticed this as well, but you'll quite often find, especially in the winter months, that these mongooses will come out in the mornings where it's really cold. If you've been here in the winter, there's obviously summer now, and the winter's very cold for the first few hours in the morning. You'll often find the mongooses come and sit on the eastern side of kind of like an area where they are roosting, and you'll find that direction by where all their dung or scat is situated, because obviously they come out, they sit there, they do a bit of preening and grooming, and they sit with each other, and they do their ablutions at the same time. So, and the setting sun is that way, and this is in a sort of open area. East would be kind of that way, so it's quite possible that they have done it, but it is summer months, it's hard to say. But with these mongooses, the dung I'm not going to touch because they are a predator, but we broke some open here, and there's little bits of shell, little bits of insects, and I've actually found an insect here, and this is kind of what they would have possibly done, maybe bitten the head off and sucked out all the juice inside. But they are very, very successful little carnivores, feeding on snails, even snakes, and even the eggs of ground nesting birds, but mainly insectivores. But they are definitely one of my favorites. One of my favorite stories, though, of the dwarf mongoose, or what of the mongooses, is that they like to do what we call a groom-off. And if you've ever heard of that before, essentially what happens is to form dominance. How do you form a dominance hierarchy in a group of mongooses? And what happens is the two males, so for example, Seb and myself, will decide to start grooming each other at a rapid rate. And the person to stop grooming first loses. How's that, eh? So essentially the guy who can groom the best becomes the dominant. I think that is quite interesting. Maybe when we get back to camp, some of the guys will be interested in a bit of a groom-off to see who is in charge. Or maybe not. We're going to continue on. I did hear a question in my ear there, but I'm sorry if I didn't quite copy. We're going to go through this way, Seb. Bush bashing. Dale would like to know what my favorite smell is out here. And the dwarf sage is a small little plant we find often very close to water. I haven't found much here, but it's by far my favorite smell out here. It's got a very sort of Vicks-like smell. I don't know if you've ever had Vicks. It's something in South Africa we rub on our chest to clear our nasal passages. But it's just got such a lovely smell out here. The wild jasmine is also quite an interesting smell. And then, favorite smell. That is an awesome sandalwood, African sandalwood, the tamboti. If you file down the wood and you smell, it's got a beautiful sweet smell to it. Obviously, we don't want to be burning the tamboti because it gets can be very noxious and can cause you to have such bad diarrhea that you will dehydrate yourself to the point of death. So we'll stay away from burning any tamboti for you. Okay there, Seb, just a bit caught up. Okay, so while we continue on our little adventure on foot here, I believe Noel's lions are getting up and moving.
They are getting up and moving. He's trying again to say, hey you, wake up, I'm ready. And she gave him a little growl, and now she's going to lie down again and make him wait. But while she does that, he is standing. He's very tall. It's sometimes difficult, unless you're physically next to the lion, to know just how tall that is. So I'm 5'9", and that back of that male lion's, or maybe his head, is basically going to come up to my natural waist. If that gives anyone an idea. And then for any of you who are watching from not the imperial system, but from the metric system, I'm about 173, I think that's correct, 173 centimeters, if I did that math correctly. You all know my math is horrible. But yeah, so if that helps you at all. Oh, their little paws are touching. Shame. There you go, Tula-Ann. That's them being nice to each other after she was being mean to him. And then Tula-Ann, you were saying that your cat Henry, his picture's above his litter box. I got that wrong. Sorry, it was above his litter box. You have 4 of them that are up there, and he gets upset because he's not a bigger cat. I can imagine he looks at those beautiful cats and might feel a little bit dwarfed. Okay, so Scott has turned himself around and maneuvered himself enough that now he's got a very good visual of that little cub. So let's quickly go on over to him, and I'll come back if they do anything, these crazy little lions.
Well, I hope you guys do get lucky with those mating lions a little bit later. We certainly have got lucky here. We found a wonderful new spot here where we've got an open, clear view, and the cub continues to be in a very playful mood. So what we've decided to do is invite on some other safari goers with us. So I'm just going to keep quiet for a second before we welcome them on board. Welcome to everybody who has just joined us. We have got a wonderful scene here. As you can see, there's a leopard with a tiny little cub there, and the cub's in a very playful mood. So we thought we would invite you in to take a look at this wonderful scene. My name's Scott, and it's great to have you on this live safari. We are in the Sabi Sands in the Kruger National Park in South Africa, and we've been following this leopardess and her cub quite closely over the last 2 months or so that this cub's been around, and it's grown quite a lot over that 2-month period, and it's getting more and more playful and bold as the weeks and days go by. Absolutely awesome, awesome stuff. Now, if any of you would like to ask any questions, it is live and interactive, so I can get back to you. Please just pop your questions in the comment box, or even your thoughts and comments. And I'm told already there's a lot of you that are going, ooh, ah, cute. And I must warn you that the scene may become not gory, but there is a baby antelope that was killed by this mother leopard, and she stashed it in this area somewhere, and both her and this little cub may snack on her, and time will tell though. They may wait until it's cooled down a little bit, until we get any more views of that. Now, let's just move a little bit forward and try and get into a better spot. Oh, Pippa, good to know that you're watching. Pippa's actually the landowner who's been very kind to let us drive you guys around on this incredible wilderness area. And I hope all is well in Hoedspruit, Pippa. Good to know that you are watching. This tiny little cub and her mother have been providing us with the most incredible sightings over the last couple of weeks. Now, I wonder if Mom's trying to pull out this baby Inyala, and Inyala is a Bambi-like antelope, a very beautiful antelope, of which she managed to catch a baby some point either late last night or early this morning, and she dragged that kill at least half a mile, possibly even more, into this area so that her cub can snack on it. Now, let's reposition again. It seems like she's dodging us, but she's not. She's just going about her business. And I'm hoping we might be able to snipe a view from down on this side. I think we should get lucky. Jackie is the kind of start and or end. It all depends on the individual leopard and her cubs. There's no set rules, but it's anywhere from about 5 months of age to 6 months of age. I'm just here. Which drive just make arms back then. It looks like, just judging by the way she's moving her body, that she could be possibly plucking off some fur from her kill. They try and remove it. Yeah. Any other spots where we move to, we're going to get a visual of it. There is a chance she's going to give it snap. And even though look at how beautiful this is. Okay, I must keep winging it.
Alright everyone, so sorry that we lost signal with Scott there. The gremlins do seem to be having quite a day of it today. Now, these two got up and it looked like they were going to get going, and he went to try and she turned around and gave him a bit of a large couple of growls and a few smacks. So I think if we're patient for another minute or two, we will get to see another mating of this beautiful pair of lions. There's a bit of a yawn and she's down. Yes, but she is quite a tease. Now, the thing I'm really enjoying about right now is the light on this male is actually quite spectacular. Now, let me just ask Vildi, do you think we should move and put at 3 o'clock? Do you want me to go down a little bit farther that way and see? Yeah. Guys, we're just going to meander just a little bit down here. And the reason why I want to do this has to do with the type of light that we have. And just because they moved a little bit farther, I've got an idea of a shot in mind that I think all of you will like, and that I think might work out well for us if they start mating again. So Vildy, just give me a shout when you're happy. Maybe when I get past this little bit with our antenna in the background. And there we go. So we're still below them, but then we can almost see a bit of the dam in the background there, a little bit of the water, and that golden light's coming through. So there's that beautiful female. And then that male, especially now if he lifts up his head, it's going to be quite a lovely shot. And that green in the background. So the trees are still doing very well on Djuma. The grass I'm worried about. I am worried about our lack of rain for this season, and I'm worried, I personally think we're going to have another drought this year. We need about 300 mils to fall in the next 6 weeks or so to make the water table high enough for everything to carry on. That's really nice there. Guide Monkey, you're saying that the lions have picked this spot. It's good mood lighting. I agree. So I know some of you have some chat rooms that are a little off the board when we have lots of shows, when we talk about dung and things, and I've been picturing the things that you'll be saying about our sighting here, and so that mixed in with the mood lighting. I'm gonna have the giggles now. You guys have given me the absolute, sorry, I'm jiggling the screen. The absolute giggles. Okay. So now something that's interesting about mating lions, one of my favorite stories to talk about, is some research that was done up in East Africa as to what a lion's mane is used for. There was a thought for a very long time that a lion's mane was there for protection against fighting, but having done quite a bit of research with lions and other friends that have done similar things, you can very easily put your human finger towards the neck there. It doesn't really stop anything. So how would that stop a lion's paw? So that mane is there to show females how virile and strong and what good genetic material is there. So you get long dark manes, and you get long blonde manes, and you get long ginger manes, and then you get short manes of the three. And then sometimes males will have no mane, or sometimes a male will lose his mane. It does happen. So part of the reason why we know this is a study that happened in East Africa. And basically what they did is they took life-sized stuffed lions. I'm assuming they were actually stuffed lions, not dead ones that were then stuffed, but I don't really know the answer to that. I think they were pretend stuffed ones. Long dark mane, short dark mane, long blonde mane, short blonde mane, and then a no mane. Made male calls, females got attracted, and when all of them were lined up, they chose the long dark mane. Then they took that one away, did it again. They all chose the short dark mane. Took that one away, they did it again. They chose the long blonde mane. Went away, did it again, and then all that was left was the short blonde mane and the no mane, and the lionesses were like, ugh, no thank you. So when you get the dark mane, whether it's short or long, that especially the black manes, like the dark manes that we've got here, or even the darker ones that you get in the Kalahari, and then for instance that big male lion, I believe is Scarface up in the Mara, he's got a very dark mane. That's showing a very high level of testosterone. Now within blonde mane lions and ginger mane lions, you'll get darker tinges for the ones that have high testosterone, especially amongst coalitions. If you have a look at the Nkuhumas next time all four of them are together, or if you've got any gifts you want to put up there, there'll be one male that's a bit darker than the rest. He's the one that gets the lion's share, excuse the pun, of a lot of the meat, which produces more testosterone. And the reason why he gets the lion's share is because he's the more dominant and forceful. Not that he's an alpha, not that he's the most dominant out of the four, but in many scenarios, and then his body produces a bit more testosterone, so he's got a bit of a darker tinge. Now that being said, I've seen with coalitions of 4 and 5, and sometimes of 2, that the females, if both males are good-looking males with darker tinges, they won't always choose the one that has the slightly darker. They'll still choose the 2. But if one of the brothers were to be all manky, they're going to choose the one that is more virile looking. So that's a whole display. It's very similar to when human males go out and have maybe a very large beard or do lots of manscaping on their faces and man grooming. That for depending on whether you're a beard woman or you like a lot of coiffed look, that will help you choose your partner. So it's not being vain in any way. You're basically saying that testosterone level works for me. Paula, good question. You're asking if a male lion was neutered, he'd lose his mane. Paula, the male lions that I've seen that have been rescued from zoos and circuses and things like that, that have been neutered and lost their manes, have been neutered very early. And has started growing their mane and then were neutered and then it just went away. I haven't personally seen a full-grown male like this that was neutered and then lost his mane, although I'm sure it's a possibility. The males I've seen, because I've only really worked with wild animals, I've had very little exposure with zoo animals and with canned lions and things like that, because it's not my thing. The male that I know of that lost his mane, he climbed a tree and fell out, and that stress made him lose his mane, and he never grew it back. She really is making him wait. I'm really enjoying the vibes we have going now. With the mood lighting. I'm gonna laugh about that. Okay, drive. Alright, while I try and control my giggle fit, let's go to Steve, who's got some small things on bushwalk.
Is Noelle laughing again? She's got such an infectious laugh. We are at the bottom of what we call the Katina, or the slope. And how can we tell that? A lot of the trees that you can see here are the magic guarri tree that I spoke quite in depth with the other day. But what's also obvious about this area is the lack of ground cover. Have a look where we're walking. There's no ground cover, purely because whatever grew here, because the slope drains down, so whatever nutrients you find at the top of the slope will come down to the bottom, making it very nutrient rich. But then what also happens is that the salts from the top come down, and that is why the guarris do so well here. But any of the grasses that you see, if we just come down onto ground level here, any of the grasses that are growing here are very well grazed this time of year. But what happens at the bottom of a Katina is this sort of crust forms, and that's because of the erosion of the topsoil layer. The topsoil layer that has eroded away because of the overutilization of this area then leads to, so the topsoil layer probably would have been about here, that is eroded away, and then underneath you get this very impermeable crust that nothing can go through. Grasses can't grow through that, and it's very difficult for moisture to go through. It's almost called hydrophobic. Water will hit there and just run away. And what that leads to is the fact that nothing can grow here. It's also quite evident when you see lots of pebbles on the ground. There were some over there. But the importance of animals walking here, because of their hooves, you see this game path that we're walking on, the hooves actually break open the crust, which then allow for the grasses to grow. These are natural systems in the ecosystem, but if you have a fence, which the Kruger Park does, you're going to get areas like this that are overgrazed. And if you just look down here, there is erosion forming in the gullies there. Little gullies are forming because of the water running down. When we have lack of vegetation, you have an increase in water flow and an increase in surface runoff and an increase in soil loss. And this soil that was here took millions of years to form, and only a few hundred years perhaps to disappear, sometimes even less, which is something that managers have to take very careful account of. But it is a natural process. But with fences and with game movements in areas, it is something that managers have to look after. And just a simple log like this on the ground, you can see how it's quite shallow this side, and on that side there's a lot more soil. Just a simple log on the ground has caught a huge amount of soil coming down, and look at all the plants that are growing there. It's a very effective form of management is laying down logs or branches on the ground. You might have seen it in some of the segments around Djuma, but it's quite a good technique of sort of stabilizing soil. You want to slow down the water, you want to capture seeds, and you want to accumulate soil. And the soil is coming from the top. It's constantly happening, always moving, but we want to obviously keep the water in place. Because believe it or not, folks, what happens here in the Sabi sands of South Africa, or in anywhere in South Africa, affects the rivers all the way down to the ocean. And what do we know about the rivers? What we know is that fish breed in estuaries of all of this soil being washed down, and we have a huge decline in fish, huge decline in breeding populations of fish. Across the world, everyone's talking about overfishing. It's not just overfishing, it's a lack of recruitment of baby fish. So what's happening here, or in anywhere in South Africa or across the world with soil, is affecting fish. So we must never think that we're in this little bubble and we're not connected. Ecology, we are connected to absolutely everything. We are breathing the same air. So if you're polluting it, wherever you are affecting everybody. So we need to stop thinking that we are in isolation, that our countries are independent of each other. We share the same air, we share the same water, we share the same soil, we share the same fish. So we should be kind to each other. See, here we are at the bottom, still same sort of process. These gullies start to form. As I said, folks, it is a natural process, and managers do look to try and rectify these. But you can see where the soil from the top is coming down. And this very impermeable, difficult to get through. You have to break that with an axe or with a panga, not a panga, but with some sort of spade to get your soil or your plants growing. Here's a good example. Can you see this here? You can see where the grass is and where the soil is around. Look how just that one piece of grass, I know it's dead now, but look how those roots are holding that in place. Small little things, very, very delicate, but all connected. So we're going to continue looking for the small, intricate ecological aspects of the environment. And while we do so, we're going to go back to the cackling Noel, who hopefully has got a laugh under control.
I do have my laugh under control, Steve. You know how I like a good giggle fit. Steve's known me for a long time, and he's seen me cry very hard after a very long one, but I'm under control now. Our lions still are not doing anything. They're just lying here, as they should. And it's only, again, because he keeps trying to push her a little bit, and she's just not quite ready. But the scene is lovely. Excuse me. Kylie, yeah, you're asking if there's scars all over the back of the lioness there. Some of them are scars, some of them are old, and some of them are marks from more recent times. If you were watching when they were mating just now, did you see where she was biting on the back of her neck? Sometimes when he bites her there, it punctures the skin. And then some of what you're seeing now is just because it's been repeated matings, so it's just a little bit of a sensitive area, and some of it will go away. There's more. If you go to the base of the tail there, that's some hectic scars. That'll be from fighting around kills and things. And then also there. Joy, what a really good question. You're asking if this lioness needs to mate with the other Birmingham males so that they won't kill her cubs. So, Joy, the way that a male coalition works is that they work together. So even though it's just this one male mating with her, because they function the four as one, those four will assume that it's their cubs, if that makes sense. Sometimes they do note it's not necessarily their cubs, but because it's a coalition mate's cubs, they're not going to kill them. They work as four brothers together. They mark territory together. They hunt together. When it's mating, the only reason why they're not here is that the type of testosterone that's going to function now with her being an estrus is going to make them all really want to mate with her. So they give each other space so that they don't injure themselves and fight amongst themselves during that time. I have seen coalition mates be closer up, but in those particular circumstances, one male was a lot more dominant than the other. I've seen it in coalitions of two. And And I've also seen it in scenarios where one of the brothers was injured and or younger than the other brother. But that's why they're doing that. So Joy, no, they shouldn't they shouldn't want to do anything to those cubs. Sorry for the cough, everybody. I can see him sort of looking up at her. She twitches her tail around lovingly. Ooh. Okay, here we go. We've got a little bit of action. Cursed, I did hear you, but I do think this action might happen if you don't mind. Ooh. She's not happy. Let's see what happens. Come, my girl. We know this is going to happen. And hopefully there he stretches. Now he's pretending that that he doesn't care as much. But did you see the minute that he licked her, because he's initiating, not her initiating, she gets upset. If she stands up in the next couple of seconds, they will start going. If she lies down again, then they're not going to. So she is grooming herself, very similar to last time, and she's biting at the flies, which means that she's more aware. The flies are especially bothering her ear. And I would guess in the next sort of 20 seconds or so, she's going to stand up. That's my personal estimation. But he does keep pushing her just a little bit too much. So now him lying down like this means that he's being submissive, and he's trying very hard to allow her to do what she needs to do and make herself look pretty and feel better. I do. 10 seconds left of my estimate. All right, Amber Eyes, come on. Let me know. Are you actually, because I know Murphy, and my estimate might run a little bit late, and then we're going to go away to someone else, and then they'll start mating. All right, guys, I think my estimate is almost up. I do think this is going to happen, but she is definitely taking her sweet time about it. So, Cursed, my friend, it's up to you. All right. Let's go to Scott with a bird, and then Cursed will come right back to us if anything happens.
Okie dokie. We have sadly had to make space for some other people to view Thandi and that little cub. That is why we are now looking at a Wahlberg's eagle. I'm guessing it is one of the pair of pale form Wahlbergs that nest on Wahlberg's Nest Road, which is kind of directly below where it's flying now. I love watching eagles hover about, and I get very, very envious of their skills. Now, what we would like to do is try and get into a spot where ideally we'd be able to get you some good silhouettes. The sun's beginning to set off towards the western horizon, and this large open clearing that we're driving through here is often home to quite a few impala as the sun begins to set, because they know that it's a nice, safe place where it's difficult for predators to sneak up on them. And I've just seen a few impala up ahead. It looks like we may actually be in luck to get some silhouettes. They've literally just come running up from right to left across this road, coming probably from the Djuma waterhole. Ooh, yeah, I think we're looking good here. They might not be high enough up yet on the horizon, but we should get some beautiful afternoon sunlight glinting. Let's stop here and let Dave work his magic. The ones that are now walking through the sun are going to look absolutely exquisite. There we go. A beautiful golden glow. I love this time of the evening. If only we could stop the sun or get the sun to stay at this level throughout the day. It would mean we would have permanent beauty, but I guess that would be a little bit greedy. Magical stuff. Well, we're going to have to loop ahead of them again to get the sun in a good spot for that golden glow. So let's have one more look. And the good news is that they are moving kind of higher up, and they may be... Ooh, I think we're gonna... Let's ditch the Impala and go for gold with some wildebeest. The Impala weren't quite high enough up, but it looks like the wildebeest are. It looks like we're going to get a full silhouette of the wildebeest. It's our resident herd, it looks like. Ooh, yes, we're in the money. This is going to be good. You can just see them faintly there. Beautiful stuff. And well done, Davy, for jiggling all the camera settings to make this beautiful scene. The sun is a little bit high up and quite harsh at the moment, so he's having to work his magic here. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. Okay, good stuff. Well, I hope now that as we say goodbye to you and send you back to Noel, that you do get lucky with those lions mating. There's only a couple of minutes left, so I'm crossing thumbs for you. We'll see you all on the next safari.
Scott, thanks for all those beautiful visuals. And there we've got the rest of the Nkuhumas lying very lazily on the other, well, not the other side, but a bit farther away from these two that are mating, keeping well and clear from the action there. So we, usually my timing is very good with things like this. Amber Eyes has decided that everything I'm saying is absolute rubbish today, and she's just going to do her own thing. I'm still blaming that Birmingham mail for trying to push her too much. But I think because we have a couple of minutes left, we're going to hope and cross fingers and hold thumbs that we get another beautiful bit of action there. So let's see what happens. She is twitching her tail, and she is slightly moving around. We might just get lucky. You all have had some really great questions this afternoon. If you've got any more you want to send through, please do. Don't forget, we're live. Hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or YouTube chat. Send them through. We've got a bit of time left. All right, my girl. Your debut is going to be cut short here. To be honest, with my timing being off today, I can't get in her brain very well. I don't think she's going to do what we need her to do in the next little bit. Sadly, everybody, I'm so sorry, but that doesn't mean that they won't be here tomorrow. They could either be in the same spot or they might be a little bit farther off, but hopefully they don't cross into Biffleshoek and we'll be able to try again. So I thank you all very, very much for a wonderful afternoon, and thank you for sticking with us during all of our gremlin problems. We are going to see all of you tomorrow morning at 5:30 our time. So from myself and Vildi, and from Steve and Seb, and from Davi and Scott and everyone in the Mara and FC, thank you so much and enjoy your evening.